In this episode of Dolly Designs, I will be showing you how I make earrings for Colleen's Courtney doll, stands for my birthday Frozen, Anna and Elsa, and little outfits for these two mini Ariels. So stay tuned to see the process. These are some of the key pieces from Courtney's separates that I'm going to be making earrings based off of, and Julie's birthday outfit. Courtney's also wearing a few pieces. I like to have them around so I can compare different beads and get ideas. And then these are all of my supplies that I'm working with. I've been collecting supplies for a long time. That's why I have so many. And in this clip I'm making some geometric inspired earrings to go with the very 80s print on some of Courtney's separates, like her graphic sweatshirt. I'm using a combination of flat beads and round beads that are small but will give it that very shape-like vibe I'm going for. And I also have this large black cube, and this is just me assembling it and making sure that the earring post can fit through. And here I am cutting a bunch of fringe pieces from this cord I bought a while ago just for Courtney, but I ended up using it on other things too. And I'm trying to make sure they're all the same length and double the length I want them to be. I don't want them to be super long. So they're going to be folded over to be knotted, as you can see I'm doing here, and I am making sure to apply glue inside the knot so it doesn't come undone, because if you don't put glue it will come undone. Maybe not as much with this cord, but in the past when I've done it with ribbon it will come untied. And I also have to put a little bit of glue on the base of the cord so that it doesn't come unfrayed, so I'll put a little glue and then roll it between my fingers so that the cord stays nice. I'm also trimming it to all be the same length. For Julie's earrings, I wanted there to be a bunch of different colored pieces in resin, but I didn't have any flat beads or any kind of little bits I could use in my stash of art supplies, besides a few sequins, but I didn't have a lot of color range. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking construction paper, laminating it in tape so it doesn't get ruined when it gets wet from the resin, and cutting it into little bits to make confetti. And here I'm using my earring mold with UV resin. I'm making sure it's evenly splayed out in the mold because I want to put some resin down first, and then you can see I'm using a toothpick to carefully place all the little sequins. I don't have a lot of colors, so that's why I'm starting with them first to make sure I have enough for both earrings. I can only make them one at a time. And then I'm placing the little pieces of laminated construction paper in the earring mold and then coating the top of it with some resin, trying to make sure that I get around the little hole, and then I have to obviously put it under the nail lamp to cure it. And this is a close-up of me placing some of those little bits into the mold for the second earring, which came out better than the first. I would have remade the first earring if I'd had enough of those sequins, but I didn't. So it's kind of a finicky process, but you can move all the little things around, and this is it curing in the UV lamp. So these are the earrings I made to go with Julie's birthday dress. I really wanted to capture the funky colors of the pattern, and I have this silicone mold for these large hoops, which I bought with Julie in mind because they're very like mod, and I put in different sequins and confetti pieces of paper that you saw me making. That way it's also colorful on the back. If I use these kinds of sequins, they have silver back, so it wouldn't look cool. That's why I used the limited color palette I had of these guys, and then I made the confetti pieces of paper, and you can see her other earring matches. And I think it looks really cool and funky with this outfit, and that's gonna look great on Ivy too. So this is one of the 3 pairs of earrings I made Courtney to go with her new batch of separates. Now I was really inspired by the flower on this blazer, which is why I decided to use fabric flowers. So these are the kinds I use on doll headbands, but all I did was I just pushed a jump ring through the mesh material. I didn't need to poke a hole or anything beforehand, it just went right through. And then I just added these black and white beads because this blazer has black but also there's a lot of different black and white items from these different separates. So like the houndstooth, I believe that's the print on her little skirt and shirt. So that way it would match a lot of different things. Like you could pair them with this polka dot shirt, for instance. And I think it looks really cute, really 80s. It goes really well with this hat too. So these are the fringe earrings I made Courtney. You can see they're in this like bright blue and pink color to go with some of her separates. And I wanted to do fringe because of this jacket. I thought that would be a good tie-in to this jacket, which is such an 80s statement piece. And this is one of the looks that I've paired the earrings with. And since her hair is up, you can really see them. This is the last pair of earrings I made for Courtney's separates, because she obviously has other pairs I made to go with her old separates, and her collection is very well coordinated, so she can wear some of those with the new pieces and vice versa. But I wanted to do something kind of geometric with a lot of colors, because she has like this sweatshirt. It's got a lot of these bold designs, and it's also similar designs on one of her tank tops. So I did like this big cube to kind of capture some of the cubish designs on her shirt, and black to match some of the like leggings and parts of the designs. And then you can see there's just like all these little colorful beads that pick up the colors of her designs, and they're different shapes. So I have some smaller, flatter beads and then rounder balls, just to kind of give it more of like that shape look. But these are also dainty. I didn't want to go too bulky and be overly distracting, because her clothing pieces are wacky enough. Here I'm measuring out the bases for Anna and Elsa's stands. I do 3 inches wide for a larger doll, and then in the next clip I'm drawing a line so I know where to cut with my chop saw. And here I'm marking out where the hole is going to be drilled for the dowel backrest, which I do it midway in the center of the stand and then ½ inch down. I wanted to buy unprimed wood when I went to Home Depot to get more of this baseboard a long time ago, but in the scrap bin all they had was this primed stuff, and it's cheaper to get it from the scrap bin, so I just grabbed this and dealt with the sanding. And here's me sanding the stands. I don't want any of that primer left over because paint does not stick to it, and I don't want to use a different kind of paint than what I already have, because that's obviously an option. Some people have given me suggestions in the past, but I don't have the type of paint that will cover this. I just use regular acrylics, and I'm also making 2 extra stands for future use, just so I don't have to go through all this process again. Here I'm wiping all of the dust off from sanding with a damp cloth, and then I'm going to attach my pre-cut dowels, which are the backrests. The blue one is recycled from another stand that I took apart. And I was just testing this glitter paint to see how opaque it was. Obviously I needed an under layer, but I just was curious to see how glittery it was. I like to use these really cheap kids brushes for mixing my paint. I found a pack of them in our basement a million years ago, and I just use them for this. Normally I would paint the base layer first and then add glitter, but since I tested it, there was a patch with glitter, but I was going to add more glitter later, so I wasn't concerned with it. The light blue for Anna's stand required a lot more layers than the dark green blue I mixed for Elsa's. And here I'm doing a top coat of that glitter, and I had to do a few coats just to get it as glittery as I wanted, but I should have let it dry before I attempted to do lettering. It stayed sticky. And here I'm just mapping out on a previous page of my sketchbook that had some other frozen lettering on it to figure out how I wanted the font to look. And you're going to see I'm starting with pencil, and then I'm going to go over it with micron pens in the next clip. And I really like these because they don't smudge if water gets on them, and it helps me come back to this page for reference later on to see how I did certain letters, whereas the pencil itself will rub off with time because it's just graphite. It got a little crammed on the page, but this was the font I settled on. Remember how I said the glitter paint stayed sticky for a while? It's because it has a lot of glue mixed in with it to adhere the glitter, and I'm normally used to waiting a very short amount of time for the acrylic to dry because acrylic paint dries very fast on its own, and it was just causing a lot of problems with lettering, so my finished result wasn't as smooth as it could have been, but I didn't feel like sanding the front down and starting all over, and I ended up coating it with glitter anyway, so it kind of masked the chunkiness. Normally I don't do designs on the top of the stands, but since Anna and Elsa's dresses are very slim, and Anna's in particular is short, you could really see it, and because of how large their font was, I couldn't fit much on the front of the stand, so I decided to go all out and do a larger, more detailed design, inspired by the sunflowers and bumblebees on her dress. And this footage of me adding the dots is done in real time. It's very slow and painstaking. It takes me several hours to do detailed work. So just keep in mind this stuff is always fast forwarded for the video's sake. And here I am doing the flower designs on Elsa's stand. And the way I decided to do this to keep the petals spaced fairly evenly was I started by making little crossed lines, almost like a star formation, so I could space out the petals evenly. Didn't work perfectly, but it did help me space them out. And then in the next clip, I'm thickening them to be rounder. They look terrible here because I had to do a lot of coats because, again, that goopiness from the glitter paint below it was very problematic. I'm adding glitter to the font to mask the bumpiness and make it shiny. This is Anna and Elsa on their new stands. So they're all sealed. I'm not happy with how Elsa's turned out exactly. I feel like it could have been better. I think if I decide to redo this in the future, or if I just use this kind of glitter paint in the future, I'm definitely just going to paint my base coat first, do the designs, paint those, and then top stuff with glitter, even if I had to paint around things. But I like how Anna's came out, and this is what they look like without the dolls on them. There's a lot of glitter. And it goes all the way around. I got these two little Ariel dolls at Savers in October of 2021, and I didn't have any miniature clothes that fit them or suited the mermaid vibe, so I thought I'd try my hand at making them clothes, but as I can't sew to save my life, this is my first very failed attempt at making a pattern. I know nothing about how clothes go together, so I kind of just studied some clothes and thought about what would be easiest for me to make with my limited skills. And I had this cute fabric left over from a little pack of cheap fabric I got at Walmart ages ago for another Dolly project. I used this same thing to make my Arista doll a tail. This is attempt number 2 at pattern making. I'm marking where her waistline should be and the hemline, and then I'm connecting them and cutting it out on this paper that I just had laying around. It's not for pattern making, but it gets the job done. And then I'm pinning it to the fabric because I don't have any fabric markers. That's it all cut out, and I'm using fabric glue for the hemlines instead of sewing because my attempts to sew the hemline, it made the fabric fall apart. So this was just easier, and it worked really well because I sewed lace on it. This is what it looks like from the back all sewn up, and I'm now trying it on her. It did fit, and so then I decided to add some lace for a little extra something. Here I'm drawing the pattern for her little matching top, and then I sewed a stitch down the middle to gather it. I glued the hemline again, and this was the pattern for my Disney Store Ariel's dress. This was attempt number 1, what you're seeing here of me cutting it out. I actually had to make 2 of these because the first one I sewed a little too tight and this fabric started to fray because it's really cheap, but my second attempt did work. These are the pieces all cut out. And then here I've already added the lace, and I'm about to add these little flowers to the top for a little extra something because I didn't have any lace small enough. These had sticky backings and little rhinestone things that I peeled off before I sewed it down. And then here, these are the snaps. I added closures on the other one too. And these are my 2 Ariel dolls with their outfits all sewn. So this is the outfit I made for the larger doll, but there's the lace. You can see the closures on the back, and I think that gluing the hemlines down worked for this scale because as it dried, it stayed in place, and it was a flexible glue made for fabric, so it worked very nicely. It contours to her body really nicely. My hand sewing would be terrible, so the stitches would be really obvious and probably quite ugly if I had hemmed them with stitches. And this was so tiny, and I'm not good with the machine, so I tried an attempt off camera of using my machine as like a tester, and it was a disaster. And I like this Ariel's outfit even more because I originally was thinking of maybe making her a mermaid tail, but then I thought maybe doing a dress would be better because I could add some more details. But I didn't have a lot of fabric to choose from, and I didn't really want to buy any. I did look at Walmart, but I didn't really want to buy any more. I wanted to sort of use what I had. And this flower print, the flowers are smaller, so they work really great on this small scale. And both the lace trim on their dresses I use all the time for tutus on dolls. I'll just like sew snaps. This was given to me after my friend's grandmother died. This was her lace, so I get a lot of use out of it. And then these flowers came with my Crystalicious Bratz dolls. That's what the little adhesive on the back was for. So I just pulled the adhesive off and pulled little rhinestones out and then sewed the flowers on, and I think they work perfectly with the color scheme of this print. I hope you enjoyed this medley of different arts and crafts projects for my dollies, and if you want to see pictures of them, they are on my Flickr. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.